So, hi everyone, good morning, good evening, wherever you are located. Sorry about this technical glitch that happened. We know what's sometimes we get all these things. So today, we have a very special guest, and I think we don't need any introduction for him. Like we have Chuck, and he gonna talk about Unix commands and how we can utilize those things. And he has like 35 years of experience working with these things. And also, without any further delay, I introduce Chuck. And Chuck, thank you very much for joining and taking time out to give a session on this. So the stage is all yours, Chuck.
You're very welcome. Sorry for the last minute change. Now my camera's too low. Hold on. I should have thought of this earlier. We'll try that. Okay. That's better. I wanted to stand a little closer to you. The table if I slide the table back, it works really well for live coding happy hour, but not so much for these things. So thank you everybody for joining. I really appreciate it, and thank you for asking me to be here. My name, as you mentioned, I'm not going to assume everybody knows me, because somebody could have just signed up as a customer last week and not seen any videos or heard any podcasts. My name is Chuck Tomasi. I've been with ServiceNow. I've been using the platform since late 2008. I was a customer for a couple of years, doing an ITSM implementation way back when that was pretty much the only product we had. And after 22 years at my previous company, they did a reorganization, let me go, and a few weeks later I was hired by ServiceNow. So since mid-2010, I have been a technical consultant, I've been a solution consultant, I've been a developer evangelist and developer advocate. A lot of different roles, but always having a great time sharing what I've learned with the developer audience. So that leads me to situations like this. And when I was talking to Pranav about topics for this meetup, he said, you just did the Rome platform features for, what was it, Pune and Mumbai? And we said, okay, let's do something else. And then an idea that I've had in my head for a while was to venture out a little bit from doing traditional ServiceNow development, APIs, that kind of thing, and look at some of the other tool sets that developers may find useful. I know when you start dealing with a mid server, for example, you may be encountering PowerShell or Unix commands or things of that nature. And I thought it's good to know some basic Unix, Linux commands just from a standpoint of expanding your horizon, because even if you're a Macintosh user, open up that terminal window, there's a whole wide world of automation at your fingertips just from a command line. And now as ServiceNow has a command line interface, this could help automate tasks that way too. You can make API calls right from a command line instead of a curl command that could potentially expose credentials. You can use our CLI to send commands and interface and interact with your instance itself. So I thought it might be fun to just take a look at some of the common basic Unix commands that have been around for 50 years now. Oh my gosh, it's hard to believe. I've been using Unix of some variation since the mid-1980s, so about 35 years of experience doing this. What I won't be covering in this session is a history of Unix. There's lots of great videos out there, and it gets pretty in-depth about BSD and this version and System 5 and Linux, and that's a whole nother discussion for another time, and not where I want to take this. I'm also not going to talk about every permutation and every parameter of these commands. I could spend an hour just on the ls command to do directory listings. There's like 15 or more -L, -S, -T, capital T. Not going to get into that. I want to give you some basics and some tools so you can go and explore more if you want. I'm also not going to, this is starting to sound kind of negative, but I want to put this in, make sure we understand what's in scope and what's not. I'm not going to get into the different shells For example, C shell, Z shell, bash, corn shell, bourne shell. There's different command line interfaces. What I'm going to show you is pretty much standard across all of these because the majority of these are built-in commands. If you want to get into shell scripting and do more of that, we could take a look at that. There's different installable packages you can add onto various systems, whether it's an RPM or an apt-get or something. We're not going to get into those details. I know that somebody on LinkedIn said, hey, don't forget to teach them all about VI. A little too in-depth. Again, VI is one of the editors I'll mention shortly, but it's that alone can be a one-day course if you wanted to get familiar with that editor. It's a bit of a learning curve as far as editors go, but very powerful and very efficient once you get used to it. I won't be covering regular expressions. We do have a couple of TechNows on that still live on. If you want to go to devlink.sn/technow, there's a couple of episodes about regex and regular expressions and building those and some tools you can use. And I'm also not going to get too in-depth. I will touch on it, but I'm not going to get too in-depth with file permissions because it'll take up more time than we've got. So now that I've got that cleared out of the way, I want to do a screen share and jump right in to our, let me see, screen share. Which screen was it? I believe it was desktop 2. Let's take a look at some of these commands. I organize these in some sort of fashion. I want to cover some of the built-in. I've grouped these together in a logical grouping, and I've let me move the zoom window a little more out of the way. I think it's always in the way, no matter where you put it. So I'm looking at a command line on my Macintosh, and it's got Unix under the hood. Mac OS X for the last 20 some years has been built on a variation of BSD Unix. So you have all this power. If you want to set up a Raspberry Pi with Linux. Is there a question?
Hey Chuck, sorry to interrupt you. I think we are not able to see. Is it me or Dhruv, are you also not able to see?
It's the shell, man. It's the shell.
Yeah. Now it's coming up.
Okay, I wanted to put something on the screen because it was very, very Spartan that it was just a blinking cursor. So
yeah,
I tried to make it as big as possible. Is that readable for you, or I can make it a little bigger?
It's better now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's starting to get off the screen. So let's go with that. Okay. So a couple of easy, quick, built-in commands that are available. One is the echo command, and it pretty much echoes either a literal string, like if I say echo hello. These are handy if you're writing a shell script and you want to say, I'm now loading this, or I finished that. You can put that in, and these are just simple output statements. You can also output, say, variables, and there are various environment variables. I can type env, which is another built-in, and it says, here are your environment variables. So if I wanted to say, let's look at the home variable, which is down here, right? I can say echo home, and I should get the value out of that variable when I hit enter. So you can interact with these variables and set them accordingly. I changed my prompt here a little while before. Let me bring up another tab, and you can see my prompt by default actually has the system name in it, the path, and my user login. The problem, I have a bit of an issue because as you start to navigate down some of the directories and folders, and I'll use those two terms interchangeably, but they're effectively the same thing. My prompt starts to get a little too long. It's way over on the right side of the screen. So I am a bit of an old timer. I prefer, where'd it go? I prefer a short prompt. And when my screen gets too busy, I can type in clear, and it will clear the screen. So that is some of the basic commands about that. Now, one thing to note is that the Unix system, the command line, the shell, is what they call reentrant. So you can create a sub-process off of that. For example, if I said, set a variable, let's call this Chuck, I'm not sure what I hit here or why I did that, equals Tomasi. And I said echo $Chuck, I should get, of course, Tomasi. But if I were running a shell script and I just jumped right into a subshell, notice that my prompt changes completely and it doesn't know what Chuck is. It has no idea of that. If I want to make that available to these subshells, I would have to say export Chuck, and then all the child processes know about that. So there's this sort of parent-child inheritance, almost like you're calling a function and you know about a global variable for in a developer way. It's the scope of those variables. Unless you explicitly export something, the child processes don't know about it, which can be handy. It could also be somewhat protective. Let's get into the file system a little bit. How do you navigate around? Well, a couple of real simple commands, as I don't know if I showed them to you or not yet. One is pwd. I've heard this as either print working directory or present working directory. Totally up to you, but it will tell you what is your current path. Slash being the root folder, can't go any higher than that, and I am down in my home directory, users/chuck.tomasi. I could also go to other folders with the cd command, and if I don't use a leading slash, it will be a relative thing like documents. And for the most part, Unix is case sensitive. So if I said documents, it's going to say, it actually did this. Interesting. If I say cd with no arguments, it will take me home. So if I say pwd right there, this is where some people like the path in their prompt, and I particularly don't care for it. If I do the same thing from over on this one and I say cd documents, oh, now it's a relative path. Okay, I've seen some people where they put in the whole /users/chuck.tomasi/documents. Like, ooh, by the time you actually get something, your cursor is way over here in left field, or in right field somewhere. So I'm going to keep it simple and keep working here. So cd to navigate around, I can say cd/, takes me to the top. ls is a directory listing. Give me the files. Now, some of these are files and some of these are folders. You can do an ls-l, and it will tell you a whole bunch of details about this. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but what I read off of this first column is D is a directory, and then I have a set of permissions. The first three, which is called an octet, RWX, this first RWX right here, so I can zoom in on that. I can't zoom in on that from this window. Tells me that we have read access, we have write access, and we have execution, or I can change into that folder. If it's just a file, let's go back to my home directory. I have no idea what I put here. Sometimes these are all directories. I've got applications, I've got BoxSync, I've got desktop. Notice that some of these are dashes. So the first three apply to this column. This is the owner of those files. Hopefully I own all the files in my home directory. Okay, so we can look at the permissions in the first folder. The owner is the second column. The group is the third column. There's a file size. There's obviously a modification date, and then the name of the folder. So ls-l is a very popular one. You can also get to your home. Let's see, if we go down to glide bin, let's say, and I do pwd, I'm now in users/chuck.tomasi glide.bin. This is a folder I made to keep some handy dandy little shell scripts around. If I do an ls-l, I can see that many of these are executable. And I've got a zip file, I've got a couple of shell scripts, things of that nature. Very easy to do. There are certain autocomplete commands that are available. Let's go back to my home directory with a CD, verify that's where I am, and I say CD P tab. It doesn't know what that is. I don't know why my cursor, my focus gets off on this window. There we go. But if I did P, this one's not going to play along with me today for whatever reason. CD, and I hit tab, it will put in the rest. It will autocomplete these. So you have to be unique enough. Notice the backslashes, because just like many of these other things, I lost my cursor now. There it is. Spaces are special. If I tried to CD into my Google Drive folder and I wasn't there, I said Google Drive without the backslashes, it would think that's two different command line arguments. So it goes, I don't have a folder called Google, but I do have one called Google \drive, which is perfectly legitimate. I could also do that as CD Google Drive. Both work. So when dealing with special characters, something that's not a letter, number, underscore, dot, very important. Oh, I forgot about dot files. That was not even in my outline a little while ago. When doing an ls, there are certain files that are hidden. So let's go back to the home directory and I do an ls. You can see just a bunch of folders, directories. I could also have hidden folders or hidden files. Anything that starts with a dot is hidden by default. So if I say ls-a, show me all the files, you can see I've got, oh, wait a minute, I've got this SSH, I've got an SNC, I've got an SH history, .profile. Where were these hiding a minute ago? Well, these are just typically system or application configuration files, like SSH, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, and do an ls-l, I've got a file called known hosts hiding down there. Normally, I don't care, I don't see these, they just maintain themselves, but it's handy to know that ls-a will get you there. Let me get back to my home directory. Another one that I use fairly commonly is to see files in a reverse order. Let's go to my downloads folder for a sec. Come on. CD downloads, and I believe I have a whole bunch of files in here. Yeah, quite a few. But I want to know which ones were modified most recently. You can do an ls-l, because I want to see the details, -a, because I want to see if there's any hidden ones in there, reverse, and by time. So LART, however you want to remember that. And I can see the most recent thing was this zip file that I downloaded for my video switcher. Fairly significant file. I probably don't want to keep that around for very long. It's eating up like 1.5 gigabytes of space, but handy nonetheless. I could also group those together by saying ls-lart altogether. I don't need space dash space dash space dash space. So as long as none of those arguments have supplemental arguments, like it's not -t file name or -f file name, I can mash these together. And we'll see that in a little bit on some of the other commands. So that, where's my other notes? Other things around the file system. Let's go, we'll stay in downloads for a second. I can create directories with an mkdir command. Maybe I call this, oops, temp, / will throw you off. mkdir temp, and then do ls-ld says list the directory, not what's in it. Because if I just said ls-l temp, it would say there's no files in that folder. I'm asking to see the contents of that. But -d says I want you to stay right here relative to where I am and show me if you have something like that. If I'm going to create a hierarchy, I could do that in sequence and say mkdir temp folder 1, mkdir temp folder 2, folder 1 / folder 2. This would get very repetitive and very iterative. I can do that all in one by saying mkdir -p. this will make every path along the way if it doesn't already exist. So I could say temp, P1, P2, P3, P4, and it will create that structure for me. So now if I do an ls-l temp, wow, this thing is really starting to drive me nuts with the cursor. I don't know what's stealing my thoughts from that. It will show me what's in there. If I wanted to see this recursively, ls-lr, it's going to drive me nuts after a while, will show me the paths all the way down there. It says your temp folder has a folder 1 and a P1. Inside a folder is this. Inside of P1 is a P2. Inside of P2 is a P3. So you can get a recursive listing all the way down. Sometimes handy if you want to say, show me all the files and folders within this particular structure. Notice that I have been very prescriptive about not preceding on that last command. There is a command recall. I'm just using my cursor keys at this point. I have not put a leading slash on temp. If I had, that would have said, start from the top. The slash, up where root and bin and home and all these other folders are. This is not where I wanted to start. There is no TEMP in there. There is a TMP, however, which is used for temporary files and it's cleaned out when you reboot the system. Similar to making a directory with mkdir. Are we still in temp? PWD. We are in downloads. ls-ld temp. Okay, we have that. We can remove a directory with rmdir. So you say, you know what, Chuck just created a whole bunch of folders. They didn't really have anything in them. I want to get rid of the temp folder. It says you can't. It's not empty. Oh dear. Trouble abounds. So I would then have to address all of those individually. rmdir, temp. This is a safety thing just to make sure you don't really do some serious damage. P1, P2, P3. That was not empty either. Did I go down to P4? There. So I've trimmed off one branch of that directory tree. If you want, you can also do this a little more brute force, and I use extreme caution when doing this. This is probably one of the most dangerous commands I will show you tonight, if not the dangerous, because unlike Windows or deleting a file from Finder on Mac OS, those are put in a trash folder and deleted later. When you remove something with RM or rmdir, it's gone. There is no recovery from that. So unless of course using a cloud folder and you can bring it back there. So use these with extreme caution. Let's say, for example, I wanted to delete this Wirecast 14.3.1.dmg. I know I don't need that right now. And I say, just remove that folder. It's gone. I can't recover that. I'd have to go re-download it from Telestream and say, hey, I need the newest version. Let's take that temp directory. I just remembered another command that I didn't have on my list, and that is mv for moving files around. So cp lets you copy a file. Let's take, did I copy that? Let's highlight that. Let's copy this file, and it does exactly what you would think. cp for copy. Take that file, I just pasted that in, and copy it to chuck1.dmg. Ding! I've copied that file. ls-l chuck1.dmg. I could then remove it with chuck1.dmg. Gone forever. Let's copy it again. Only this time, instead of copying it, let's move it. So mv, paste, chuck1.dmg. Now, if I look for Wirecast, I'm beginning to think this is Zoom doing something to my cursor. This is really bizarre. Let me see if I still have the chat or something running. Okay. I'm going to close these other Zoom windows over on that screen. Hopefully things will get a little bit better. I can use I can use wildcards, and I do not have a 14.2.dmg anymore. I have 14.2.1, but I don't have a 14.2. But I do have, it's been moved to chuck1. So CP for copying, MV for moving. It's really just your rename command. There is no command called rename. If I wanted to, I can modify the permissions with the change mode command, chmod. Some people will say chmod. I never really cared for that pronunciation, but it's done in octets. This is kind of a course unto itself. But let's say I wanted to add write permission for the group on this particular file. I could do something like chmod group plus write on chuck1.dmg. The only way this works is if you are the owner or you have, I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, if I do an ls-l, you can see it has turned on that middle bit. Now, there are ways you can do this with octal numbers to do the bit manipulation. So if I said change mode 411 chuck1.dmg, it gives me a different result. 4 being this bit position for RWX, 421, 421, 421. So don't want to get into a whole bunch of bit fiddling with you today, but that's a little bit about permissions and the way they go. If I want to change the group of who this file is owned by, I can say change group. I don't even know of any other groups. That ANSI group. Let's do one called underscore. Thought I saw one in here called developers. Web developer. Okay. So ls-l chuck1.dmg, and I want to change it from staff to underscore web developers. Change group underscore web developers chuck1.dmg. Come on. Did I not get, was it web developer? Fine, we'll use something that's easier to spell. LDA. I can do that. Change group underscore LDA chuck1.dmg. You are not a member of that group. Can't do it. So you go, well, how do you know what groups you are a member of? You type ID, it will tell you. Your UID or your user ID is 501. Your default group is 20 staff, and here are some things you belong to. Ah, okay. So I can change this to underscore app server admin because I know I'm part of that group, in which case, come on. Change group that chuck1.dmg. And if I do an ls-l on that file again, I can now see the group has changed. Change owner is the same way. You use a different owner. If I wanted to transfer this over to somebody else on my system, I could do that. Once I give a file away, I can't get it back. So use that one cautiously as well. A couple more file system commands. One that I like is du for disk usage. It's how much space have I used? Let's go to, we're in the downloads folder. And I say, hey, you know, my hard drive's running a little short on space. I think du, or the downloads folder might be a culprit. du-s for summary, -k for kilobytes, dot is the current directory. I am using one, I got to do the math here. So it's kilobytes, so this would be 8 meg. This would be 15 gigabytes in my download folder. Not the smallest thing. There are some operating systems that will let you do this in megabytes as well, which would just divide this number by 1,000. So you can do -sm. I don't, last I checked, this doesn't work on Mac OS. Oh, it does. Okay. I thought there was also a G on some versions of Linux will have a -sg. Wow. Okay. Looks like Mac OS has been updated a little bit since I've last checked some of these. So DU, very handy for disk usage. The other one is DF, how much disk do I have free? This will tell you across the file systems. The most important one, I usually do a DF-K, which looks like it does about the same thing. Let me back that off so we can see the columns a little bit easier. Capacity 3%, capacity 100%. And you might freak out and go, oh my gosh, this dev file system is full. Not to worry. You have to understand that everything in Unix is a file, including the device interfaces, a printer, a USB port. They're all files. And this particular one just happens to look like it's full. I don't worry about that one. The ones I usually worry about are /, which is the root file system. It's good to know where things go. You don't have drives like in Windows for a D drive or an H drive or an R drive or an it's all off of /. When you take another file system, whether it's a network file system or something, and you mount it to your Unix file system, it becomes part of that tree. In fact, you can see volumes in here. If I go stick in a USB drive, which I don't have handy, it would show up as /volumes/something. And I could see how much space is on that particular file system. So DU and DF are real handy for your file system management. Another one that I like about file systems, am I still in downloads? I am, is the file command. So if I say file chuck1.dmg, it says, this is a bzip2 compressed data, and it tells me the block size. What good is that? Well, sometimes you have echo hello out to chuck.txt, and I say file chuck.txt, it will tell me this is ASCII text. If I say file *, it tells me everything in here about, remember the temp? That was a directory. There it is. Okay. It will tell me the file type of all of these. Very handy to know what type of file you're working on so you don't accidentally say, let's go look at the contents of a binary file, and you get a whole bunch of gobbledygook and bells beeping at you. I can create files. You may see this in some shell scripts if you've taken a look at them with the touch command. So there is, oops, touch takes a file. If you just give it a file name, chuck2 dot, I don't know, txt, it creates a file of 0 length. And you go, well, what is the use of that, Chuck? That doesn't seem to make any sense. A lot of times these are used just as what they're called stub files, as a flag to say, I was here, this process ran, don't run it again, this is a lock file, or start up this particular process when the system starts. It's just a way of doing system configuration or planting a flag on the system that says, I was here. You could also use it on an existing file. Remember chuck1.txt, ls-l chuck1.txt says, maybe it was just chuck.txt. Says this was modified September 10th at 2044. If I touch that file now, it will update that date and time. Hopefully it's been a minute or so. Now it's 2046. So you can affect the 3 different dates that are involved with a file. The creation date, the access date, and the updated date, I believe, are the 3. So touch has some arguments in it. Not used all that often, but handy to know when you do. You're like, okay, so I've got this text file that has something in it. You type hello and saved it off to a text file. How do I see what's in there? It is a command called cat. It is short for concatenate, which can also be used to stitch several files together. It's not type, it's not print, it's cat. It's one of the most basic commands you'll know out of Unix. Works great on text files. If you happen to get a very long file, let's see if I have something like an XML file in here. Sure I do. And some of them are quite large. If I were to take this particular, I'm going to guess it's an update set of some type, and I say, let's look at that. You're like, oh, that's a little long, Chuck. I'm not sure I want to see all that. I just want to see the first 10 lines. to know, is this part of an update set? Where did this come from? You can say head on that file name, and it will show you the first 10 lines. You want to see the first 20 lines, you say head-20, same file name, and it will show you 20 lines. Okay, so head is very good for showing the front end of a file. You can guess what you can see for the last part of the file. You would be correct if you said tail. Show me the last 10 lines of that file. So head and tail, great way to do that. Another one that you may come across is tail-f, which is follow. This is a great one for watching log files. If you've got a mid server, for example, and you want to watch the agent0.log0 file, you can say tail-f on that file name. Like, great, there it sits. Now, let's say something else comes along. CD downloads. Oops, where am I? I'm in documents, CD downloads. And I say, echo, this is another line. And I redirect that to that file, the greater than appends it to chuck.txt, or some process is just making a log file. This will just follow that log file. You can watch what's happening to a text file as it happens as you follow the tail of that file. Okay, and hit Control-C when you're done. Breaks out of that tail command. So very handy for debugging log files if you just want to watch something that's happening. Maybe you want to keep it on the syslog file, tail-f syslog. Another one I use a lot is the WC. Is that a question or just somebody moving their microphone around? All right. WC by itself, chuck.txt, tells me a few things. It says you have 2 lines, you have 5 words, and you have 27 characters in this whole file. Like, great. What if I just want the lines? WC-L chuck.txt. Handy for how long is this file? WC-L star.xml. Oops, missed a letter. Star.xml. I can see this one's got 9,000 lines in it. This one's got 12,000 lines in it. You may or may not want to open a very large file or take a look at it or say, is it 0 or is it more than 0? So lots of different ways you can use WC, typically in a shell script, but I use it periodically just to go, I'm expecting this to be a very large file. If it only has 10 lines, something went wrong. You don't actually have to open it up in an editor to take a look at it. So I've got all this wonderful information, but I don't remember where I put it. Unix has a way to find your files with a command called, unimaginatively, find. So if I wanted to find, you tell it where to start. I could start in my home directory. I could start in the current directory. I could start at the root directory. I'm going to start in my home directory. And somewhere I have a file. Oh, let's say I want to find all my files that end with .json. I can say find home star.json -print. And it says I don't have anything like that because it doesn't work that way. You say -name star.json. I think I may have to put quotes around that. No, there's a whole bunch. Woohoo! Whole bunches of files, and I'm going to stop that. But you can see every single one of these ends with .json, .json, .json. So easy way to find that. What can you do with that? Well, you could save the output. You could maybe open them up, maybe copy them, whatever you like. So find is an easy way to do that. There are more explicit cases. If you wanted to find maybe just directories, you could do -type D files with -type F. So you'd filter it down a little bit more. It may bring you back more than you want. Once you found a file, you could say, hey, wait a minute. There's something in the file that I don't exactly remember what it was. Let's do, this is one of the goofiest commands I've ever heard of. I still don't know why my cursor's doing that. But I say grep is I remember right, it's something like get regular expression program. So grep, typically put in the string you're looking for. Hello. And I'm going to look through all the files to see what has a hello in it. And this is starting in the current folder. And there are some very large files that it's trying to look for. So let's stop that. Let's not do that. I am still in the downloads folder. This is just nuts. Let me... Zoom and my terminal window just don't want to get along right now. Let me do that. And I'm going to try it this way. Okay. Maybe it was just because it didn't want to run in full screen. We'll see what happens. Grep hello star.txt. And it says, I found that in chuck.txt. Great. It will give you a whole listing of those. If you're looking for, if you accidentally typed hello in star.txt, it says, I didn't find that. It is case sensitive. However, you can do a -i to make it case insensitive and get a search like that. Many other ways of using regular expressions with grep. Not going to get into all of those because regex, as I mentioned, is out of scope, but it allows you to search for a string or a regular expression in one of the files, or in one or more of the files, excuse me. I've also used this to say, hey, what line number was that on? Grep dash, I always get these two mixed up. Is it N or is it L? One tells you the file name, one tells you the line number. And I think it's N for line number. So hello star.txt. It says I found this on line 1 of the chuck file. If I'd said -L, it says, yep, it's in that file, which may be handy if you want to know just the files that it's in. So grep can be very, very useful. I should have talked about this when I was on permissions. There is a file called Umask that says, what are my default file permissions? So when I create a new file, you saw when I created chuck.txt, ls-l chuck.txt, come on, ls-l chuck.txt, it turned off these other bits. Now, by default, execution isn't on, but nobody else has write permission. This turns off the 2-bit, which is the write for group and write for everyone else in the world, turns them off. So by default, I'm not opening up files that shouldn't be writable by other people. I can change the umask, and then new files would take on that inheritance. So umask 0000, and I say touch chuck writable. I know I didn't spell that right. ls-l chuck star. Notice this one is completely writable. So be aware of what your umask is before you start creating files. I have really made a mess of this folder, and I'm going to have to clean up my downloads soon. Handy command. Seems very trivial, but date will tell you what is the current date. Maybe you're writing a log program, and you can format date in a number of ways with arguments to say, I just want the year, I just want the day, I want the year, day, month. However you want to do it, date can do that. And maybe I say date and save that to my log.txt. Okay. There it is, saved in a file for all eternity, or until I clean out my downloads folder. The very easy to use date. I already mentioned the clear command, showed it to you a couple of times, clears the screen. Another one that's, as funny as this seems, whenever somebody says, hey, what's the date next Thursday? There is a command in Unix to tell you, the cal command. And it is short for calendar, obviously. By default, shows you the current month. Some even highlight the current date to help you with that. If you say the whole year, you say cal 2021. Let's try that again. Cal 2021. It will show you the entire year, which is handy. Sometimes it's faster than pulling up Outlook or pulling up your phone and looking at the calendar and swiping. And Oh, wait, view by week. No, view by month. Wait, I just want to know what next Thursday's date is. It's the 16th. Great. So how many Tuesdays are there in December? 1, 2, 3, 4. Very handy for seemingly trivial things. And it goes way back. If you want to know what the calendar looked like in 1492, there it is. In fact, I forgot when was it 1542? When they switched from the Gregorian calendar, from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, you will see October is missing a week, which is technically accurate. So whoever wrote this application, it's just a simple little utility. It has all of those little subtleties in it. It will tell you where the missing week is. Which gets me to another command. It's like, wait, where are you pulling these all from, Chuck? Where's the clear command? Where's the date command? Where's the echo command? If you say which cal, it will tell you it's in /usr/bin/cal. Or as some people will say, user bin cal, or user local bin cal, or wherever it happens to be. If I say which echo, it will say this is a built-in, oh, that one is not. Which CD? I know that one's built in. I can't spell now. Which CD? I don't think that's right. Some of these are actually built in. And it will say, this is a built-in command. There actually isn't a command to do that for you. So you may come across that as well. But it's often handy to know where these are from. Again, if you're writing a shell script and somebody changes to a different directory, you may not get the commands or modifies the path, which is, where am I looking for commands? Well, I want you to start looking for commands in user local bin. Then I want you to look in user bin. Then you're going to go to bin and then user sbin. So let's take my other shell here and say, I'm going to really mess things up and say export path equals user bin only. If it's not in user bin, I'm not going to find it. And I say, which CD? You say, it's in user bin CD. So can I say CD? I can't, because I swear that's built in. Echo path. Let's do which cal? User bin cal. All right, my theory about the path command isn't quite right today. Somebody must have messed that up. You see there's lots of other things in the path variable. It's a very special one. Generally, you don't modify this on your own unless you have a really good reason. But you may add things on. For example, I've got a local MySQL server on here that I need to start, and some of the commands to manage that, start up, start down, shut down, all of that are in the MySQL bin user local MySQL bin folder. If I didn't have that in my path, every command I wanted would have to be preceded with a full path, user local MySQL bin MySQL start, whatever it happens to be. That's how that works. What else is on my list? I'm getting down to the end. If you have been granted permission on your system, and this has to be granted by a system administrator to allow you to do this, you can effectively do what you do on like an instance where you say elevate security, elevate access, and use security admin, for example. There is a command called sudo, which allows you to run things as a super user, or as that admin user, as a root user. And if I say sudo touch my file, it says, great, give me your password. And it says, sorry, you can't do that. Then why did you ask me for the password first? And apparently security is going to find out, oh no. But there is a file that needs to be added to that says Chuck is allowed to run these commands called sudo. And many times if you're on a Linux system or something, you will run commands as you say sudo apt-get update, and it will update your application repository. You have to do some of these as root because you as ordinary citizen don't have access to those files. It will basically impersonate that super user for you. So that's a good one to know. Sudo is run that command as root, as it's called. Showed you a couple of other things about redirection and whatnot. And like when I did date to a log file and I did the double redirection, okay, we've got two files in there, or two lines in there, cat chuck.txt. There are some commands that I gotta back up real quick and give you a quick intro on something. There's some standard file handles, is what they're called, that exist for input and output. Input is generally from the keyboard. So if I say, let's create a new file, I can just say create a new file called my new file. And there is nothing in it. If I say echo line 1 and send that to my new file.txt, it will put that in there. We don't need to really open that up to see that there are 6 characters. You go, wait, you only typed 5. There's a carriage return or a new line on the end of that. That makes it the 6th character. Cat my new file.txt. There it is. If I want to append it, I would use 2 of these. If I did not put that and I said, hey, send line 2 out there, and I didn't have 2 arrows, it would just replace it. So let's do that just as a fun experiment. Line 2, my new file.txt, cat my new file. Let's just hit the arrow key a couple times. It only has line 2. So this is take whatever output you've got and send it to that file. Double arrows is append it. So if I take line 2 and change that to line 3 and make it double arrows, I now have line 2 and line 3. It appended that on. So that's how that goes. But there's also, you may encounter errors. And errors are sent to a separate place. So by default, I'm taking, let's say the date command. Date sends its output to something called standard out. This is typically the screen, unless you redirect it. But sometimes you'll encounter an error, and you say, well, I put some redirection on there. I wanted to capture that, but it didn't work. I'm trying to think of something that I can do that makes an error. But that's sent to a separate file handle called standard error. You may, in fact, see something like date my newest file .txt, and they'll do something goofy like this. Like, what in the world is that? This says, if you encounter an error that's headed for standard error, if it's an error message that's going to this other error file handle, I want you to also send that to standard out. Send them both to the same places. And you need ampersand because it will create a file called 1. You don't want a file called 1. You want these to go to the same place. So you may see something like that, and just understand that it's saying error messages and regular output are all going to the same place. So that's my handy dandy tip. All right. Couple of, where are my other things here? Oh, told you I'd give you the secret sauce. You didn't have to write any of this down today. If you were looking for a topic, this is like the most helpful thing. If you want to write one thing down, write this one down. It's the man command. I think I briefly showed this to you earlier when we wanted to look at the touch command, for example. You say man touch, which just sounds dirty. I'm not going to touch any men right now. It will tell you what is the name, what is the syntax of this, the various arguments, square brackets are optional, tells you the full description, and you can look through all of the pages for this. So man pages are very helpful. If you don't know the exact command, maybe you want to look on keyword, man-k date, and it will say, here's a whole bunch of things I have related to dates. Don't worry too much about these numbers in the parentheses. They go way back to when man pages had different manuals. I mean, physical manuals. Manual 1 was all about standard commands. Manual 4 was all about file formats. Manual 8 was, so don't worry about those. It's not as relevant today as it used to be, but they're there for legacy purposes. If I find something in here like ns update, what is that? I can then go man ns update and find out more about it. So the man command and man-k are very useful if you want to know more information or you're not certain what you're looking for. There are a couple of editors that are very common. One is available on every Unix system that I've ever used, called VI. It is probably the most user hostile editor I take that back. Second most, not user friendly, user hostile. But it is very powerful if you want to manipulate files. Without it's all keyboard driven. There's no mice, no nothing. I can take this command and paste it below there. I can take this command and paste it above there. I did that with 3 keystrokes. Okay, very efficient. It gets confusing because there's the normal moving around editor mode. These are all on pretty much the home keys. J, K, L, H. Okay, I'm just using my left or my right hand to move around these. But then if you type colon, notice that it drops down here into this kind of command mode. If I can then do things like search for every capital H and replace it with a lowercase globally. It just changed the capital H's on hello. I can undo that and it will put them back. So a lot of things you can do in the VI editor, but it takes a bit of learning to get your mind around, am I in the command mode? Am I in the editing mode? Am I inserting text? Am I not inserting text because I'm moving around? It can be a little confusing to the uninitiated. But again, it's available on pretty much every system. So you don't even have to worry about, do I need to load it? It seems to always be there. Another one is, I don't know if it's on this system or not. It is. Nano is a little more graphical for you. It's text only. Its predecessor, Pico, has been around for 30 years, I want to say. I originally started using this with an old text-based email reader called Pine. But Nano is obviously like a new project and allows you to do a lot of similar things. So if you're looking for something that's a little easier to get novices started, this will do just fine. A lot of times when you're reading, say, Linux instructions on somebody's website, they say, go into Nano, edit this file, save it back out. So if I do, I thought it was open. Name of file to write. Nope. So different things you can do in here. Escape, cancel. I haven't used Nano or Pico in a long, long time. Exit. Answering no will destroy changes. No. Okay. So VI and Nano, 2 very common editors. Typically, I've seen Nano has to be loaded on some systems. VI has been around. You could go back to a 1992 Sun Solaris system and find VI. It'll be there. So that's just the one I default to. But then again, I'm the old timer. That's about all I had for the basics. I know we've been doing this for about an hour, as fast as that seemed. Do we have any questions or comments?
Yes, Chuck. I think we have some questions like about some automations regarding mid server and all. So I'll just rephrase the question. For example, we have shell scripts and all. We got a requirement recently in which like the team needs to run the shell scripts like on a fly, and so they will raise a ticket via catalog item, and we'll just go ahead and run those things up. So my question is like, do we need to store those script on the mid server, or can we run it ad hoc, like without storing those on mid server and some kind of a way? I just want to, I'm thinking aloud on those topics.
If I remember, there was I know in a recent update, I forget whether it was Paris or Orlando, Integration Hub has a way to run a Unix command, a shell command or a shell script on a mid server. So you don't need to store those on the mid server explicitly. Once you build that shell script out, let me go look at one real quick. I know there's some in my bin directory. ELT, I don't even remember what this is. Oh, it creates a log. It does a tail-f on a log file. So or my drop is what I often use for doing a database drop or a database restart. So cat my restart.sh. These are just text files that have execution permission on them and often have what shell they're running in at the top. So I don't have to remember this ugly long command every time. I just type in my_restart and it will restart my MySQL server. If that's located on the mid server, then the command you would use from the instance, say, hey, mid server, go run this my_restart command. It's off in users chuck bin or users chuck.tomasi bin. If you sent that to a mid server, it would then run this shell script file. If you didn't do that, if you didn't want to store that on the mid server, or you've got multiple mid servers, you could put that into the action itself, or into the whatever is going to run that command on that mid server. So you don't. I guess the short answer is no. You don't have to have that shell script stored on the mid server or stored on the host that the mid server is reaching out to. You could, in fact, do that a little more dynamically, because you may want to inject data pills from Flow Designer to say this is a dynamic script. If I put it on the mid server, well, the mid server is going to run the same thing every time. Maybe I want to have the host name in there, or maybe I want to have the instance name that initiated this, or something like that. That's a little more dynamic, where you can make the shell script behave differently every time it runs. Good question.
So great, Chuck. Yeah, this was something I was looking for one of the recent enhancement that we are planning to do. So thank you for that. And I think one question is coming from Ankit. He's asking, like, can we restart a mid server using command from CLI?
Yes. I don't have immediate access because I don't have my SSH set up on this machine. Oh, I forgot to mention some basic networking commands. But yes, you can. It's in the, I believe we're now installing this like in opt ServiceNow mid agent. Say if it's a Linux-based mid server, it would be shutdown, stop. I can't remember. It's only been like 2 weeks since I set up my latest mid server. My brain doesn't remember, but there is a shutdown and a startup command for the mid server, both for Windows and for Linux.
That makes sense. And Ankit is asking one more question: which action it is? So, so Ankit, it's like I can answer that. It's a shell script action that's part of the integration hub. So if you install that, you will see that shell script action where you can run any shell script command on that.
I can't remember if it was elevated to action or if it was a step inside the action builder. I can't remember if it ever made it to action, but I think you're right.
Yeah, so I was recently trying. So there was some action related to running a shell script as well as PowerShell script. So that's there. Okay, and any other questions?
Hi, Bruno. Hello, Chuck. So I have one question. A couple of weeks back, our developer instance was not working fine. So the loading time was getting almost 2 to 3 minutes for per form it was taking. So we raised and ServiceNow maintenance engineer was just dropping all the commands that you're showing. So could we know how these things are diagnosed when ServiceNow instance takes a lot of time to reload, or it takes a lot of time to appear in the window. How these things are handled using these commands?
I don't have a whole lot of information to what they're doing on the instance or doing on the system that manages the instances, unfortunately. They may have diagnostic tools of their own. They may be checking the inter-process communications like semaphores and message queues. That's a little too deep into the actual Java application and what it's doing on the back end. I honestly don't know what it does or how to diagnose that. But a lot of it is I'm pretty sure just about every instance we host is hosted on a CentOS Linux machine. At least that's what it was last time I checked. So they're just going in and running some of these same commands. They go around to directories, they check if files exist, they're looking at log files with tail-f, a lot of the same kind of things.
So when you were directing us, so I just could remember that he was just going through the files using these commands, and then I really don't remember what command he was getting. But yes, he was getting all the transactions that we did. But the thing you showed, that now I got what he was doing actually. He was going
good.
through these command prompts. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you see a CD command, they're moving around the directories. When you see a tail or a head or a cat command, they're looking into files. grep is searching for something. Find is searching for something. So yeah, a lot of these are very common. I use them almost every day.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Is there any other question? I'm seeing one question from Bala. He's asking Chuck, like, we are planning to do a cloning from production to a dev. Is anything mid-server changes required, or is it not related to it? I think it's not related to it, but Chuck, do you want to take it?
Well, I can't think of anything related to the Unix commands that I was talking about. And I don't recall if the mid-server table is in the clone exclusions or not. I haven't looked at that in a while. But if you've got any input on it, sure.
Yeah, like it's generally go ahead.
Mid-server, sometimes when you do this production cloning activity, your mid-servers are in the exclusion list, but sometimes they don't work. You need to restart because of the records. And just remember that one instance at a time. So that might be the issue. So it's all sorted automatically, but in case you find that issue, just restart the mid-server or just check the config file whether it's pointing to the same instance or not.
Yeah, and same thing, just to add on that, like we also have kind of a small automation build up in which whenever the clone happens in the post clone scripts, we just restart all the mid server in dev, and we don't clone the mid server table. We keep it in the exclusion list. So that's that.
All right.
Okay. Awesome, Chuck. Like, I think this was really helpful session. Like, I definitely learned something on
Pranav,
this one.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, Rohit, yeah.
Hey. Chuck, I have a small question. I think Pranav asked a brilliant question about that automation part. Let's say we have a Python script. So instead of the shell script or Unix script, can we do the same automation without placing the Python script actually in the mid server?
I believe so. So there's you can invoke Python or Perl or whatever and create the script and send it right to that command. It's part of the redirection and piping. I didn't get too much into pipes, but you can send the information directly into the command, because a lot of these commands, like grep, is just going to sit there and go, well, give me something. If you don't tell me what file, I'm going to wait for it from the keyboard. And you can fool the system into thinking something comes from the keyboard or from standard in by redirecting it in that way. Trying to think of an example of where I use something like that. There is a command or a construct called while. I can say ls pipe while read ln for a variable name, and it will read lines out of that ls command. Ordinarily, if you just said, well, read line, it will go, great, give me something from standard in. Or maybe sometimes you have to say -f for a file name. So there's ways you can do that. Perl, awk, sed, Python, most of those commands, you would say Python space file name. PHP is kind of the same way. If you don't specify file name, it's going to expect it from standard in or from the keyboard. Well, I'm not going to type it every time I want to run a script. So you can use the pipe symbol, the vertical bar that's above a backslash on a US keyboard, or below the, yeah, that's it, above the backslash on a US keyboard. I don't know where it is on every keyboard, but the pipe symbol is just that single vertical bar. Use this in a like an if statement where you say an or condition. You'd have two vertical pipes. You can use a single pipe and use that as input to that command. Or there's other ways you can do it with greater than and less than to redirect in or redirect out to the Python command. Hope that helped. I could probably show you a little easier on a command line.
Yeah. Thanks for answering, Chuck.
Awesome. That's great, guys. So I think let's now move into the quiz for today. And I'll just share a quiz registration link in the chat. So go to that particular page and let me just quickly share how it will look like. Give me a second. Okay, I'll just share my whole screen. So this is the quiz registration page that will look like. So go ahead and enter your name here and your nickname. Nickname will be your user ID. Just go ahead and do that. Once you are done, let me know, and just remember this nickname. Okay? And make sure that you just don't add any space or anything in the nickname. If possible, sometimes it causes an issue. So I'll give it like 20 seconds for everyone just to go ahead and register for it. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if once you are done with that. Yeah, so after you click on register now, you will be redirected to a login page. So hold on for my further instructions, so just stay there.
Oh, I thought somebody was telling me their nickname was default password.
So,
Nickname undefined. Just try that. Just put in your nickname as undefined.
Okay. So side by side, I'm gonna look into the backend if how many users registered.
While you're doing that, I'm going to tell a quick story about how I recently used some shell script commands. I have a Remarkable 2, the e-paper tablet. I don't know if anybody's seen those. They come up on my Facebook ads all the time. I bought one about a year ago, and underneath the hood, it's a Linux system. And you hook up a USB cable, you can SSH into this thing. You can actually log into the tablet, move around the file system, do things. When they're completely hackable. So I changed my sleeping screen. Instead of just saying Remarkable is sleeping, you can upload a PNG, and I did a picture of a cat that said, "Shh, Chuck Tomasi's Remarkable 2 is sleeping." And the only problem is when I went to do my latest system update, it updated the operating system and I got all the cool features. My sleep screen went away, as did some of my custom templates and the JSON file that modifies those. Well, that's troublesome. I don't want to have to recreate those every time. So I did what any good Unix geek would do, is I wrote a command that said, all right, I'm done with my operating system update. I would like my files put back, please. And now I just run one command and it copies the files in, it updates the JSON file for the templates, and it does, 4, 5, 6 things that I would normally do very manually, puts them in the right place, moves the old ones aside. There's an MV command that says, hey, you used to have a file called template.json. It's now called template.json.o. So if I do really mess things up, I can always revert by having the old files available to me. But it's nice being able, Linux is just so very all over the place. I mean, it's on every Android phone, it's on thermostats, it's on now it's on e-paper tablets. It's very very popular, and knowing a few commands can get you a long way in that. Okay, you've got your meetup quiz. Now that I
Yep.
killed some time.
No, it was an interesting story. So, okay, guys, I think if you have logged in now, if you have registered, you will be redirected to a login page. So enter the nickname that you have entered there, and the password for everyone will be default ABCDE. I know it's not a safe password, but for a quiz, we are using, I'm adding that in the chat so that you guys can enter. So once you guys log in, let me know. Give me a thumbs up once you log in. So you will be redirected to a similar page like this. And here you won't be seeing any quiz as of now. So I'll just start assigning the quiz in a minute. Yep. There won't be any quiz. Wait for it because I can't assign it before, otherwise you will start first.
There's a workflow involved with this.
So I'll give it 30 more seconds for everyone to log in. I think there won't be any issues in logging in. If you have any issues, let me know. I'll just start. I should have a timer here. 30-second one. This is something enhancement I've done. Awesome. So, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just assign it. So once I assign it, just refresh the page and you will see a survey on the top that will be coming up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and assign it. Instance could not be created. Why so? Is it because we have too many users or we just don't want a guest? Awesome. So the instance is created for everyone. Just go ahead and refresh it, and you will be seeing a quiz there on the top. So once you do that, there is a timer. I'll just start. So you will be seeing a quiz on the left side. Just click on that quiz and get started. Okay. And we're gonna start a timer. We have 3 minutes for this quiz. So exactly like we'll start now, and I'll just close it in next 3 minutes.
Good luck, guys. I'm not able to participate. My laptop sucks.
Hey, Dhruv,
Oh no. Someone else might win besides Dhruv.
just give it a refresh. You will be seeing it. I have already assigned all the users, the instances, but still I'm going to check. Give me a second.
These are the people who haven't registered and are attending the meetup. So
But yeah, that's why I had this registration page. So when you go there, it will be automatically, you will be logged in. So this is already there.
Hey Pranav, it shows, you have no survey to take, it's though we load it for multiple times,
Okay.
it doesn't take up to anything else. I think, you should take
Yeah,
it as an
same for
enhancement.
me.
Okay. So I'll just do it again. So these are the users that registered just now. So I can just go ahead and reassign it to all of you. So the instance is already created. I hope you will be able to see now. Just go ahead
No,
and check.
still the same, Pranav.
For who is this? Like who's facing the issue?
Sohail. No, I think
Sohail.
everyone is facing, no one is able to see the quiz, I think, or not the survey.
Yes,
anyone?
for me, it's yeah, exactly.
So I
Yeah,
see
same for
some
me. It's
people.
coming like
Distribute the prizes to everyone.
I think I think like some of you are able to see it. It maybe you haven't registered it on the form, and that's
Ju-
why.
Just try impersonating them, bro. Just impersonate them and check what's the issue. Why you are
Yep. I'm just saving some effort for me.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
I can
Anyone
just-
able to see this quiz?
Yes, I'm
Pranav,
able to see.
If you can share the URL, we can give it a shot of the quiz.
Yeah, I can share the URL, but it should be there for you because it's already assigned. And I'm seeing like it should
Think
be coming.
maybe I'm from mobile. That can be a
Yes.
problem, but
Yeah. So on mobile, it's an issue. So you won't be able to play it on mobile. So you need to be on the desktop because the app is not optimized for that. I think.
And it's interesting to see able tutor joining.
Yeah. So this is a default demo one. That's there. Okay. So I think like those of you who are able to register, you can just go ahead and start the quiz. We'll give it 2 more minutes for everyone, and it should be looking like this, and you will be having some questions. There are some Linux-based questions based on a session I just added side by side. So
I would have won it easily, man.
Dhruv, some of the questions are from our old previous meetup.
Yeah, I am seeing those things. That's why I'm saying.
Don't worry, guys. If you're not able to log in, I have one more a small wheel picker for all of us. So that's also there. So if you're not able to
Let's see
play,
if that luck runs for me.
yeah. Okay, so we're gonna give it next 2 minutes for everyone to just finish the quiz. And this is just a first version of this application I'm trying. Maybe there might be some bugs, but I tried it with like 50, 60 people.
Try building that on UI Builder. It would be amazing.
Yeah, but I just built it on Portal for now.
Grow up, buddy. Grow up.
So Shrishti, if you're not able to log in, I can give you the. Did you register, Shrishti?
Yes, Pranav, even I have registered and still it shows me, no survey to take.
Okay. And you have registered. I can just quickly see. If I can. So we have Apurva that's there. Apurva has already a survey, and I'll just send it again. We have Shrishti. Shrishti, I think you registered 3-4 times. I'm assigning it to all, whatever the ID you have registered. And who else is here? Karan.
Pranav, can you check with Ishan? So I'm
Sorry?
getting a yeah, Ishan, it's there actually on the list.
Yep.
Add Sohail as well.
Pranav, can you please add Harishankar?
Okay. And every one of you are already added. It's something like you have registered it multiple times.
Okay.
Just so I've already again created it for you guys. Refresh the screen and you will be.
Sometimes login logout works.
Yep.
Still no quizzes here.
So
Do they have the required roles or not?
They have all the roles. I think the thing is they have registered it with different IDs. Like a same person has registered. You see.
Sit with me. Sit with me. Enjoy. Sit with me. Let others see others win.
So I'm getting a customer satisfaction survey. How was your call? Not the Bangalore one.
Yeah, guys, I too see the same customer satisfaction survey.
Fill that. Chalo, quiz time is over. See the results.
Okay. Okay. Now I think we are done with the quiz. So I'll just go ahead and open the dashboard and see the winners. So the winner will be, so guys, did you submitted it? I think some of you haven't submitted it yet. Go ahead and submit it.
Don't tell me Pranav is the winner.
Okay, so we have this all. Guys, go ahead and finish it off. Once you're done, let me know. So we'll just try to have more winners for from the picker wheel. That's what I'll see. And I'll just refresh it. Still, we don't have. We have 3 people who have completed it. And this is like.
And they are going to be top 3.
You guys go ahead and complete the quiz. And no. And it looks like only a couple of people actually got the quiz. But I'll definitely discuss the quiz and probably I'll pick 5 because we have 5 winners. I thought like I'll pick 2 from the picker wheel and 3 from the quiz. But as we are facing technical issues with this, I'll just go ahead and use the picker wheel itself to pick everyone. So I think we'll be using this, but I'm gonna discuss the quiz here with everyone so that just for learning purpose. So it's there. And I'm gonna go here. Okay. Yeah, I think it's something like the assessments are not going out And you guys all have the correct roles and everything, but I won't waste much time on this. Yep, so I think we got some results. Some few people completed it. So we have Anil who has completed, and on second we have Apurva with 7. Let's give it one more minute. Technically, it should be working for every one of you, but maybe I need to check.
There's a trick to win this. Make multiple entries. You'll bypass the process.
Next time because I didn't ask for the email ID. Okay, so Rohit, you also got completed it.
Yeah, apparently.
Great. So anyway, we'll give it 1 more minute for others to complete. If there are no completion, then it will be like these 3 will be our winner for the quiz, and we'll just pick 2 more winners from our picker wheel. Let's wait till 10:14. Okay, so we are up, and I think we have the 3 winners, Anil, Rohit, and Apurva. I'm gonna connect with you separately for the prizes. Okay, and let's pick some more winners from our picker wheel. So whoever registered for this, they are all in this wheel, and let's see. We have someone KCHH. I think we should add it a bit more
Karan
generic.
Chabra. He was not able to take that quiz. Is this Karan, I guess.
Awesome. Great, Karan. If you are there, just reach out to me separately, and let's go for one more. So we have Guru. So we have Karan and Guru. Congratulations. Reach out to me separately, and I'll just take your address and send you the gifts and all. Awesome. And so let me just go through the quiz once. This was the quiz, and those of you who were not able to see, so I can read it for you guys, or you can read it like where on the Now platform can user author cross enterprise workflows and create a single and unified process. So you can have process automation designer for that. We have App Engine Studio was released in which version? It was in Quebec version. And we have the universal request is meant to allow and support cross-department reporting, universal tasking, enterprise service management. So it supports everything. So that's that. And we have a mobile agent for ITSM now supports domain separation. It's supported now, so it's a true. And coming to this is a bit technical questions regarding a user criteria. So if you are part of XYZ company, and if you're working in a particular department and you are part of this group, and these are the conditions, then like which user criteria, which is the correct statement. So I'll just give it a minute for you guys to read. And the correct statement will be the first one, the member of XYZ manager group and who are part of the finance department regardless of the geography. So that's that. And let's move into in which version catalog builder was introduced. It was introduced in Quebec version. What was the ServiceNow original name? So I think everyone knows Lightsoft. Right. And virtual agent now supports dynamic user creation with role of choice. So this is false. So virtual agent doesn't do that. And what does this funnel icon do when you click on it? Collapses all application module, remove the filter, let you add filter encoded query or none of the above. So
None of this.
it's none of the above. And for how long Chuck has been working with Unix and Linux?
32.
So I think, Chuck, you will be having this answer if you have played it. So it's 35. So,
Oh, sorry.
so that is about the quiz. And so this brings us to the end of our meetup. So thank you very much, guys, for joining, and thank you very much, Chuck, for taking time out
My
on your
pleasure.
Friday and explaining us the concept. It was really a wonderful session, and I think I learned a lot, and I can speak for all in this. I think this was really great, and I'll just share a small story. Like when I started my career, so I was doing my first or second requirement and I posted on community. At that time, I was not sure like what is community and everything. And you are the person who answered that question. And I was so nervous, like, what should I reply to you? Should I just like it? Because at that time, there was no, there was helpful and like, or it was, I was like, I got the answer, but the main question was like, what should I reply to you? Because you have replied to my question, and today I'm able to host you. That's, I'm really, I was really excited about it. Thank you very much, Chuck, for all what you all do for us.
We were all new to ServiceNow at one point.
I was looking up to you. I think Goran and you were the first few people. When I posted on community, I got the response, and it was like, it was, the situation was after that. What should I do? Just mark it correct, like it, helpful, or comment it with the proper regards, Pranav and all.
You can always send me money.
Good idea. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys for this session.
Just one thing here. Just if you want to explore certain resources, just go on Now Learning Developer Things. There's one URL that Chuck can provide. That is the combined URL for everything. I don't remember that URL.
Oh, devlink.sn/links, LINKS. Is that the one you're looking for?
Yeah.
Devlink.sn/links. Yeah, put it in the chat if I can find that.
And guys, if you can turn on the video, I can just take a small screenshot for all of us. Sorry, I forgot that. Awesome. Sorry about this technical difficulties in before and all these things that happened. I'll make sure that this new version of this quiz is far better.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, guys. Let me just take a quick snapshot. Awesome. I'll just again take one more. I think some more people joined in. Okay, perfect. Smile for the camera.
First thing to do.
Okay, guys, awesome. I just took the screenshot. Thank you very much, guys, for joining, and have a great day. And Chuck, good night to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Stay
Thanks a
safe,
lot.
guys.
Have a great weekend. Bye.